Welcome to the Four Down segment where we break down one of the storylines, headlines that caught our attention, and we're breaking it down for you 4 different ways every week. We, of course, invite you to join the conversation at facebook.com/RBTL Sports, as well as on Twitter at RBTL Sports. Our very first guest of our very first show is someone who I hold in very high regard. He's a singer, songwriter, jack of all trades, and a master of all. It is a true pleasure to welcome this man right here, Annakin Slayd. Thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for that intro.
How do you like the set? How do you like our new home? 36 weeks?
Looking beautiful, honestly.
Look forward to having you as a regular guest on our show. Thanks for taking the time.
I will be here.
Also want to welcome our RBTL contributor, Anthony Cornelli, always dressed well, of course, for the occasion. And he is a diehard City L fan. We're going to have a lot of conversation with regards to soccer throughout the season. And I look forward to some heated debates with you. So great to have you on.
I look forward to fighting you.
All the way, right? All the way. Even the first show, day one, we got to go at it. There
Absolutely.
It is. I also want to welcome, a special welcome to you, David Hurley. You're an NFL guy. A little bit of everything. You're going to be talking some sports. Very opinionated. Passion is one of the reasons why I have you as one of my co-hosts.
It should be a lot of fun.
It should be a lot of fun.
36 weeks is going to be
Hopefully
challenging.
we won't hate each other too much by
week 6.
Gentlemen, I want to talk about the Eastern Conference in hockey. There's no denying the fact that the West has been dominating the East for 12 years and counting, if not more. We'll start with you, Anthony, in terms of thinking maybe, does the Eastern Conference in hockey stand a chance of winning the Stanley Cup this year?
No chance. In terms of dominance since the lockout, the Western Conference has swept the Eastern Conference out of the box. If we look at numbers, the Western Conference has a 59.6% winning percentage over the Eastern Conference. And over the last year, that number's increased by 10.
Is that a style of play issue with regards to the difference between the West and East? Annakin, do you find it's a style? Is it a mentality? Is it the fact that the players are diluted more in the East than the West? What do you think that's a credit to?
I think it used to be a style. I think you used to see more of the big bad teams in the West, like Anaheim, which I guess they still have a little bit of that element. But I think in recent years, the East, with Boston primarily, have kind of evened that gap. But I think in the East, we're seeing a sort of decline. Some of these teams, Boston, you can see their decline starting. And I think Pittsburgh will always be that. Is this the year where
Pittsburgh has a shot? Really?
Well, I mean, with a new coach, right? That could go one way or the other.
Sure.
It could be this new kick in the ass that they need, or it's the beginning of the end for them.
I would have to think, though, that if you look at the last 5 years of the Stanley Cup Finals, you've had LA twice and you've had Chicago twice, and those teams are still just as good. So you're going to look again and see one of those two teams.
Yeah, Boston's taken a step back for sure.
Boston has taken a step back. They've lost a little bit of speed, and they're older. They're not as strong. Like Zdeno Chara's 37 years old. He's gotten a lot older.
But in all fairness, if you take a look at the Eastern Conference, right? So in 2011, Boston wins. Boston's very close to forcing a Game 7 in 2012. If it wasn't for Chicago scoring 2 goals in what was it, a minute and 10 seconds. Yeah. Last year, the best representation of the Eastern Conference was not in the Stanley Cup Final. I mean, New York was not the best team.
No.
You were there. You were actually in LA, right? You caught a few games.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there was a huge disparity between both teams.
Right. I mean, they came out the gate pretty much every game with a lot of fire. But LA's just one of those teams. It's like it felt like they could just win when they wanted to. You know, they had that superiority. Even in overtime, I never thought that the Rangers were going to win any games. It's just LA has that thing about them, and I don't see any team in the East that has that winning spirit.
Yeah.
You know.
Besides Boston and Pittsburgh, the Eastern Conference contenders have fluctuated. There hasn't been
I think
any
they've
real
had 5
consistency.
different Eastern Conference finalists.
We kept on mentioning Boston,
in the last 6
Boston,
years.
Boston, but a conference has made 15, 16 teams. Has to be more than just Boston and Pittsburgh that are carrying the Eastern Conference.
How do you like Tampa Bay? Tampa Bay looks pretty good
I
this
really
year.
like Tampa. We saw them close up here in Montreal, where we saw a lot of their young guys really starting to come into their own during the playoffs, even though they got swept. But I think they're going to be a major contender this year, especially if Stamkos stays healthy.
Yeah, I think they got to watch out for Ben Bishop as well. I think that people are overrating Ben Bishop. Ben Bishop is getting a lot of praise for what he did last season.
Yeah.
But let's see him do it back-to-back seasons. He's been in the league for about 6 seasons now, and he's never put consistent numbers up. So let's see him do that back to week-to-week basis to really help Tampa Bay guide them. I still think the West is much, much stronger. Look at Anaheim.
And I think a big issue with the East, too, is that grind, right? You saw LA win 3 Game 7s, all 3 on the road, and they won them all. And you look at the grind, and some would say, well, that's going to hinder your chance of winning the Stanley Cup. Yet, because of that grind, because of that sacrifice that gets instilled with you in the first series, that's maybe something the East doesn't have. You don't have that physicality, the same physicality as you have in the West.
Well, no, like all the teams seem to struggle with. I mean, LA just has that barrage constantly. They're always on you. And after a while, the teams just get tired. You saw that with New York. They started out the gate really strong, and then they were just tired by the end. And Montreal's going to have the same problem. and any other. Tampa, they're not experienced going deep, so we'll see how they react to that.
The way the NHL works is in the playoffs is your top 3 lines are the most important. Now every team's got that 1-2 punch that they're going to go to.
Chicago's
but your
3 lines
third
deep,
line, your third line's the line that gets
Yeah,
that most opportunity.
absolutely.
And when you look at these teams like LA and Chicago,
They all step up.
They're huge on the third line. They got Bickles playing on the third line. You have Patrick Sharp sometimes playing on the third line. Marian Hossa slides sometimes.
Can you
That's
remember?
quite
Can you remember any better hockey than the Western Conference Finals of last year?
Oh wow.
Can anybody mention any kind of Western Final or Eastern Final that was better than that? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, 2002, 2003, Colorado, when they were making it. I mean, on a regular basis.
Yeah,
I mean,
Detroit.
Colorado, Detroit. I mean,
Well,
that was an
Detroit,
incredible
Colorado series were crazy.
But my gosh, Chicago, you almost feel like the Western Conference is where the Stanley Cup is dictated. Did you get that feeling when you were?
I was in LA and I remember watching that series and saying, well, this is the Stanley Cup final. Whoever wins Chicago or LA is winning. I don't think anybody thought that the Rangers or the Canadians had a chance against either the Kings or the Blackhawks in the final. And that Game 7 where they won again in overtime, the Kings just seemed
You got
to
to
do
witness
it.
that.
Yeah,
On the
yeah.
bucket list. On the bucket list.
I wasn't obviously there because it was in Chicago, or was it in Chicago? The Kings won
In Chicago.
In Chicago, that's right. But I saw the Stanley Cup winning
Alec Martinez goal.
Yeah, and so that was one of the bucket list definitely, and I was really happy to be there.
On that note, gentlemen, to go anywhere, I want to know what you have to say about the Dallas Cowboys. We're switching gears. We're going to the NFL to find out if they are pretenders or contenders. Don't go anywhere. All that and more, all right here on Read Between the Lines. Historically, the Dallas Cowboys have been up and down. One week they're on, the next week Tony Romo throws more picks than a professional basketball player. And on this week's Pretender Contenders, we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Are they for real? We're joined again by Annakin Slayd. Great to have you back on the panel, as well as this man right here, David Hurley, RBTL contributor. And of course, first time on our show, RBTL contributor Pierre Evans. Just great to have you, and I look forward to some heated debates, including your Dallas Cowboys.
Talk about the Cowboys,
about.
finally.
There you go. Very good. Welcome to the show, and welcome
Thank
to a
you.
great season. Annakin, I want to start with you. Right before going to break, we talked about the Dallas Cowboys. Are they for real? Are they a contender or are they a pretender?
I think they're a pretender, primarily because they're the Dallas Cowboys.
There it is. There it is.
You went there.
But I think at the end of the day, we all know that this team rests on Tony Romo, whether he can really perform in those big games. Is he the elite quarterback that the statistics say he is, but the big games just
Especially in
don't.
November, December.
Exactly.
I'd have to agree with him. In the month of November, they always tend to choke. And look at that defense. That defense was ranked last season. This season, they've allowed points against St. Louis, Houston, and they had a hard time.
And it's not getting any better either.
No,
Their
losing
yards per
Maurice,
play is actually higher this year than it was last year.
and they lost Maurice Claiborne. Maurice Claiborne's one of those key corners. Who's Tyler Patman? He's the guy that's going to replace him?
At the end of the day, they're winning those. They're winning those games.
Yeah.
And it'd be easy for us to say, well, they have the worst defense, but they have a top five offense.
Yeah.
And it goes a long way.
And DeMarco Murray has to be the biggest story for you guys this year.
He's a
Just
beast.
been phenomenal for you guys this year.
He's on pace to break the record. Not sure he's going to do it, but for him to be that far ahead into the race, for me, it's a difference.
You've seen a 4-game winning streak before. It happened in 2008.
Yeah.
Jason Witten was on that team. LaDusseur was on that team. Romo was on that team. Is there something different about the Cowboys this year? Do you feel something in their game, or is it still too early to tell with the 2 games coming out, which are
all
huge
about
games
balance.
for the Dallas Cowboys?
It's all
moving
about
forward?
balance. I think they're more balanced. They're not putting everything on Romo's shoulders, and for me, that's the difference.
Yeah, that's what's been helping them out quite a bit. They've been running the ball and giving Romo. They're not giving Romo the chance to lose the game.
Yeah.
Because when he throws those timely picks, because he tends to do that,
Hey.
we've seen it every year.
Yeah.
They've had a chance to win
Trust
in your
me.
in the last 3 seasons to win the NFC East, and they've lost all 3 of those games.
You know, we talk about America's team, as they call the Dallas Cowboys,
They
and how
are.
it's important for them.
They are
There you go,
America's
and how it's important for them to do well. Do you think this is good for the NFL, or has there been many teams that have stepped out? You look at the Broncos, you look at the Seahawks, you look at people who've already made their names in the NFL. Do you feel that maybe this could be a good thing for the NFL to see the Dallas do well?
I think it's always the case. I think in every sport you got those teams that you want to see do well, like the Yankees. I'm sure the MLB wants the Yankees to do
course.
well, go deep in the playoffs.
The main teams.
Right, and I think maybe that's a good thing. I don't really understand it. I'm not sure why the Cowboys have been established as America's team. I mean,
Those
there's-
90s, they were pretty dominant.
When you're winning,
pretty dominant.
when
I
you're
mean, that was a
winning in the-
dynasty, right? They rode that dynasty in the 90s. I mean, that's
there's
where
the
it stems
49ers. There's the the
Yeah.
Steelers have always been good. I mean, it's a bit funny, but I guess it's the star.
Yeah.
It's the stars,
That might
the
be it,
Cowboys,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
cheerleaders, the crazy owner.
Were you surprised to see the amount of fans for the Texans at that last game last Sunday?
Wasn't more surprised than. It's not more shocked. It's just that you would expect the Dallas Cowboys fans even in Dallas, even though Houston is close, to outdraw the Houston
I was
fans.
surprised by
But
Tony Romo's comments. Tony Romo saying that it felt like a road game.
They
Yeah.
had to
Yeah.
use a
How does
silent
that even
count.
happen at home?
They had to use a silent count. That speaks volumes to how,
Yeah, that's incredible.
how bad they were.
They've got
outnumbered.
2 games on tap, which are huge. This is going to be the make or break for the Dallas Cowboys. Right now, it's a feel-good story, but
Yeah.
can you maybe give us a little bit of insight with regards to what you think?
Well, they got
Is this
the-
where they become pretender or contender over the next 2 games?
I think it's going to be towards the latter half of the season, actually. I think it's the last 6 games of the year, but we've talked about it in the past, where Tony Romo is not the same quarterback in cold weather. But you're going to be playing on the road against the division in Philadelphia, in Washington. Those are tough games
tough.
coming up. You're also playing Arizona coming up. You have Seattle coming up. These are tough matchups. You're playing really, really strong teams. I don't know if Tony Romo and the Dallas Cowboys are going to be able to keep up the same pace that they're on.
I think the Seattle game is going to be the game. If they come out of that game, even though if they lose, if they make it competitive, and then they go on into that stretch playing the Redskins, playing the Giants, and do well, that's going to speak volumes to whether they've changed and they've gone to that next step.
Do you foresee a big performance by DeMarco Murray against that defense? I mean, with regards to Seattle and that matchup, that's going to be
It's going to be tough because you don't run the ball on Seattle.
Exactly.
You just don't. So
Exactly.
you have to find another way. So it's going to speak to Tony Romo to be the difference, at least in that game. Not every game, but that game is going to have to step up.
I think that's one of the things about the Dallas Cowboys that have people excited in the sense that Romo finally has options. I mean,
Yeah.
this is where it becomes really interesting, and this is why the fans are so excited. This is why we're talking about it now, because if it wasn't for DeMarco Murray and some of the big additions they've made, I mean, you don't have the same Cowboys team. It's nowhere near the same team.
Right, and Des Bryant. I mean, that's you talk about a game of inches, right?
Sure.
The way last weekend, the way he pulled in that ball, that's an incomplete pass, and
Yeah.
and they don't win
Game
that
over.
game, right?
Yeah.
So it's a game of inches, and I think the Cowboys also have another thing, which is that there's no beast in that division.
There's some of the Eagles.
But the Eagles are kind of in the same
Yeah,
boat
there's
as the
the
Cowboys.
they're another
identity
cancel each
crisis as well.
Yeah, they cancel
absolutely.
each other out. for the
Their
most part.
They're a high-scoring offense.
record is not reflective of how they're playing. They played the Rams and it got close there.
Safe to say you're not only a baseball fan and a hockey fan, you're also a sports fan. Great to have you on the show. Thanks for doing this. Before we let you go, I'll just give you maybe an opportunity for you to be able to showcase to people where they can follow you and some of the projects you're working on.
Yeah, AnnakinSlayd.com. I'm on Twitter at Annakin Slayd, and I got a new record coming out in the next few months called Leave It to Us. And you can always see my stuff on YouTube, my sports songs. So
Very
check
good.
me out there.
Stay with us after the break. The spread is up next. It's Thursday Night Football. We got your picks. Don't go anywhere.